Nia, hey everyone who's joining us online. Welcome to our Kwanzaa celebration 2026. We've opened it up online so people out in the internet world and the communities around the world can celebrate this beautiful celebration with us. So today is Nia, and I'm going to ask Ty to read what that means.
All right, we got Nia purpose to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Ashe.
Ashe. Hopefully you all have heard that. So Nia means purpose. It's Swahili for that. And I had something that I want to read from a book that I got from my grandmother, and she's no longer with us. She's an ancestor, and I was been re-familiarizing myself with this book, Kwanzaa, an African American celebration of culture and cooking. And I've had it for many years, but I was like really looking at it again this year. And it's a great resource if you want to learn more about Kwanzaa. It's been around for 20 years, a lot of wonderful recipes in it. But there's something that the author Eric Kopich talked about that I'm going to share. Like our Christmas, our Kwanzaa tends to be a small celebration comprised of our nuclear family of four, although we do go to the daytime although we do go to the daytime Kwanzaa cultural exhibits, dance performances, and the like, held at the American Museum of Natural History or the Studio Museum of Harlem. After our Kwanzaa meal, I relate the biography of a Black man or woman, or tell a Black folk tale, myth, or historical event. Every night during Kwanzaa, I talk about the principles as a bedtime story. Along with many other African Americans, I interpret the Nguza Saba in a broader way than Karenga did. For instance, I've defined Kumba not only as leaving our community a more beautiful place than we inherited it, but also as finding solutions to seemingly unsolvable problems. In other words, the house paintings of the indelible people of South Africa, Kumba, as does the bluesy strains of the late Charles Mingus. But so did director producer Robert Townsend when he took cash advances on all his credit cards, using his wit to come up with an unorthodox financial source and use them to finance his first film, Hollywood Shuffle. I also define Nia, purpose, not just as restoring our people to their traditional greatness, but also as focusing on a task and not getting distracted. Thus, Towson also showed Nia, or purpose, by using the money only for his film. And Frederick Douglass showed creativity and purpose in overcoming the institution of slavery that forbade him from learning how to read. Ashe. And the reason why I wanted to share that was because it's important that we understand you can celebrate Kwanzaa and practice the principles of the Nguza Saba in all sorts of ways. The more you learn about them and you teach like your children and people, you can be like, oh, that's how I applied purpose. So, like, if I reflect on this year, I really feel like my purpose as a mother, continue mothering my children, my purpose as a great partner, as a daughter, as a friend. I just feel like it's kinetic. Like I'm constantly being dynamic about how I live my purpose, and it's still unfolding. I want to share. I said this earlier in the week. Um, through a lot of reading and starting my book show, I felt like that was a way at a time where um, reading and books are not as promoted as other things in society. that's been a way for me to like live out my purpose. But I think it's still something that I'm open to in the world. And I think it keeps you young, to constantly be thinking about using your purpose. And in this instance, it's not just using it for self, but using it to better the Black community, both here and abroad. Ashe. Who wants to share next? Yeah.
Reflecting off of what I read about the definition of Nia purpose and restoring our community to our traditional greatness. I was you know during work I think about the principles, and I think about uh the definitions of the principles, and, and, and what they mean to me. Just working during the Kwanzaa season is a little different because I haven't worked overnights actually during the Kwanzaa season in a couple years, and I'm back to it. And it's a different feel, but it motivates me to get through the overnight shifts and push through the pain, or push through the little bit of discomfort the overnight shifts present, to continue to pursue my like I said at the Kwanzaa ceremony yesterday, Ujama, pursue my greater endeavor that I consider to be a part of my purpose. And it's all about creating something to benefit the community, and like the definition of Nia says, restore our community to its traditional greatness. Whatever you can do to do that, that's pursuing your Nia. So I definitely feel like I did that throughout the year. Did that over the course of last night going into this morning, working my overnight shift and working together with my coworkers, and helping helping people get their mail, and helping package package the bags and the boxes to get people, to get the boxes to the delivery people. you know I really find I find pride in the work I do, even though it's manual labor work and it's not the work that I'd like to be doing in terms of maybe it's not the work I'd like to be doing in terms of creating, but it's still righteous work to me, and it's still walking a righteous path in terms of benefiting the world, and benefiting my community, and working toward my purpose, and going through somewhat of a rite of passage as a young man. We all have to you know uh push through some discomfort, and push through some circumstances in order to get where we want to go. And that's no different for me in pursuing my purpose. So that's something that I really stand on this year. Um, Working at the YMCA with the children, that was a big, I really took pride in that in terms of finding my purpose as well. Working with the kids and giving them guidance, and um, allowing them to be creative, and leading them in being creative, and showing them more constructive ways to be creative, and basically leading them and giving them structure. That was a big part of what I did naturally, what my role came to be when I was working at the Y. Unfortunately, um, I had to part ways because of a situation, but working there, I really took pride in leading the kids into a better way of just carrying themselves. Because a lot of instances, and I worked in both communities. I worked in, you could say, a black community, and then I worked in a white, more of a suburban community. I wouldn't even say white, more of a suburban community, with both walks of life, racial, you could say, different ethnicities, and I found a love for the kids. And I worked with different age groups too, um, from real young pre-K kindergarten all the way up to just about teen, preteen, teen, and I found all the kids had all different types of things they were dealing with, personalities. Uh, you know, they all had different things that inspired them, different issues they were dealing with, but the common ground was just leading the kids and showing them a positive way to carry themselves and just be, you know, grow up into a more wholesome person. And that was a real purpose that I found this year as I was, at the beginning of the year struggling to center myself in finding my purpose. I was going through a little bit of a rough patch with that, but I found that through working with the kids and then going into working at Amazon again. I really found my I really feel like I found a piece of myself in, the little things and just benefiting my community in a positive way through my labor and through putting in good work in terms of displaying my character and other people rubbing off on me and building themselves up into better people. And that's the main thing behind Nia purpose is is showing people a better way, inspiring other people to be better. So that's how I found my purpose this year, and I'll continue to lead that into next year. And there you go, Ashe.
Who's going next? Sharon next.
I go next. Trade places. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. The principle in Nia, um, it's always evolving. I think having a purpose, is usually more than one focus that goes into it. When we're young, we have visions of where we see ourselves or what we see ourselves doing in life, and we think that might be our purpose. And different things may happen through life where you might realize that other things can also be just as fulfilling as what you initially wanted your purpose to be. And that's not an easy thing either. You know what I mean? Go knowing that takes time. It takes being honest with yourself. It takes being honest with how you see the world around you and what you could contribute. You know what I mean? To making you know like the principle says, your community, leaving it a better place. And this year it's been a year where I've had to it's been a work year in terms of just not really going on any trips or doing anything extravagant. Ty said it, just focusing on little things, getting up, going to work, making sure that um our individual situations are right so we can contribute to the whole better. You know what I mean? So I think this year showed me a lot in terms of being able to get up and work consistently and knowing that I have a purpose that's bigger than me. That helps me to do that because you know whenever it's times where I have to get up and go to work and it's uncomfortable or you have to do anything that's uncomfortable, that it's for it's for a reason, and you're doing it for a reason. You know what I mean? You're not just going through the motions. So that's real important, and I think that was something um that I was able to do this year. And going forward, it's gonna have to keep going, but I definitely believe 2025 was a step in the right direction. Ashe.
Ashe. Hey, Days, you ready, baby? You still there?
Day?
Yeah. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. You got something going on in your background. You want to turn that down a little bit?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you loud and clear.
Okay. Um, so I think that it's interesting to observe the original like definition of the principle of it being to restore our community back to our um initial greatness, original purpose. Um, which kind of like it feels like the better black version of Make America Great Again, if that makes sense, because
Mm.
they are they're trying to create something quote unquote great, but really they just have this end goal of like supremacy. But back on track, I feel like that statement of like restoring our community to our um original greatness um is a really good way to is I think the mindset that a lot of Black Americans should have. And I think if we had it, then I think we'd be a lot further as a community that we could be.
Mhm.
Because whenever I think about like what does Make America Great Again really mean? Because it was never great in the first place. But that's not the case for Black people. The Black community was great. I mean, we had like massive empires of royalty and rulers that are just like drowning in richness, and we had thriving communities. Um, and I think knowing that we were once capable of that, um, we should use that as like a driving force to constantly like keep each other together and remind ourselves that that's where we could be if we decide to work towards it as a collective. We could be right there. And that's exactly why white people are scared of us in the first place, because they know that when we do have access to like a thriving economy and everything that we can do, we have a lot of potential to go right back to that thriving empire of richness. So that's why people are threatened because they know our history and they know that what we've been capable of in the past, we can easily do again, unless they put obstacles in our way, obviously. But I think that's why it's important for us to stick together as a community because we can do more to work towards that end goal and that original great empire that we had before. Um, doing more of working in Black groups and supporting Black businesses and um, not allowing um, the white community to wash us over in many ways, which is more difficult. It's not that easy, but it's it's enough to just say like I'm determined to reach our end goal. I am determined to
Mhm.
get back to that
Ashe.
empire. If every single Black American has that mindset, it's so much easier to get there than it is for hounding all of us to get in that brain. Um, and I think like we're capable of so much. I mean, we, we almost got a Black president. We almost did it. Um, but once again, we have those difficult forces that we're up against. But more than 90% of the country of Black women, at least were able to do it. And I think that says a lot about what we can achieve as a group if we just kind of like put our minds to something. So I think that's what this principle means is thinking about um, where we were when we had Mansa Musa in power and how we can get back to that. And I think it's not as hard as it's not as hard as it is for us to all get on the same page. And I think that's what this principle means is getting back to that same purpose. And I wish that we could replace those Make America Great Again hats and all that as Black people. Like we should have like restore our community to our purpose. We should walk around with hats like that.
I
That way
love
we can terrorize the white people.
it.
Oh, look at those restore our community. Ugh, look at those hats. Ugh. Like, yeah, let's make them uncomfortable. Shoot, I'm ready to do that. I'm tired of these white people walking up in my workplace with them ugly red hats on.
Hmm.
Let's have our own hats. Let's have black hats that say restore our community to greatness. Let's do that and see how the white people react to it because I'd love it. I'd love to see them uncomfortable. Anyway, that's it.
All right. Let's create it, Dave. I love it. Ashe.
Were you done, sweetie, or were you still expanding?
Oh no, I'm done. I'm
Okay.
done.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Oh. Um. So one thing that kept sticking out to me as we're talking is, you know, eras and towns of historical greatness, and everybody knows about the Harlem Renaissance, and everybody focuses on Black Wall Street, so uniquely characterized. But we don't know that we've had excellent towns in Wilmington, North Carolina. I say that a lot. Ocracoke, Florida, Rosewood, Florida, uh, so many different places. Forsyth County, Georgia, was another great place. I always talk about Seneca Village in New York, which is now Central Park. That was our entire landmass. That was an entire township, almost a city of sorts. That was part of our traditional greatness. And, and sometimes if you don't see it, you don't know about it. Uh, Kalawa, Kala, Kalawa, Kawaliga, Alabama. Did you know that, Deja?
Just saw this book yesterday.
Borderland blacks, two cities in the Niagara region during the final decades of antebellum. Dope. There were towns. There were towns. Yep. So the site of Lake Lanier, Deja, you still with us? The site of Lake Lanier in Georgia was a all black township that was rich um, in traditional greatness. And I'm trying to get to this list here. Okay, so you got Never Sink, New York. Hold on a second. I'm gonna read them all off. Okay, you got Henry Island, Alabama. You got Kennett, California. You got Baird, California. You got Elmore, California. You got Morley, California. Um, these are some of the sites of townships, successful, thriving townships that we had that represent our traditional greatness. You had Cobola, Colorado, Simpanero, Colorado, Dillon, Colorado, Jerusalem, Connecticut, Old Fairfield, Indiana, Round Valley, New Jersey, Warren, Maryland, Dana, Massachusetts, um, Enfield, Massachusetts, Greenwich, Massachusetts, Prentice, Mississippi, Brown Station, New York, Neversink, New York, which is up by Minnesink, New York. Um, that's on the east side, right? So those are just, those are all sites of our traditional greatness. Not all of them, and they exist all over the country. You can go to California, you can go to any state, and you can find an old black township or a city that existed, that was part of our traditional greatness, that now doesn't exist because we haven't protected it through Vanguard. And I think now is the time to actually do that. I think that might be the new purpose, is for us to find ways to protect what we own, protect what we have agency over, so that we can keep the traditional greatness of it going. And then, of course, nobody's going to educate the babies and the up and coming kids in this regard. Have you guys ever taken a test in high school that made you acknowledge any of these places that I just talked about? And whatever traditional greatness came out of it? No. And we're talking about young men who went to college, who already finished their college experience. And those things haven't been the case. Hey, Dave, has anybody ever said anything to you about these old townships and what they meant to America? Because when we start talking about making America great again, America was great when these places were great. So let's not like fool ourselves like we're not here by accident. Black people are not here by accident. They contributed to the greatness of what this place is. And we know that because we know how much of a cultural superpower we are. But now we have to just rediscover how much of an actual builder, creator, and producer that we were to the United States, and how much the United States owes us a debt from that frame. Because now that those townships aren't here anymore, I'm sure the things that they were great in didn't go anywhere. They just got renamed, reowned, repurposed, put out there in different ways. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we usually have our dialogue before, during, and after Kwanzaa. But here's a question for the family out there and the family in here. If purpose means to bring forth your will, right, or your intent, what are some really purposeful ways in this new year coming that we could bring forth our intention and our will toward these things that we just talked about? So we already know that we have traditional greatness. We know it through our ancestors and their greatness. We know it in the fate. We know it by the way that the popularity of the country. But now we just heard how many successful townships and cities existed. So now we don't have an excuse. There's no excuse. Now that we know, now that everybody else knows out there, your goal is to each one teach one. Go out there and tell everybody about our traditional greatness. Look it up in the book. Put some pictures around your house of it. Remind yourself that you can be great, and that we're not just here by luck or by the grace of Trump or whatever macro institution is in charge. We're here because we planted seeds to be here, and those seeds have blossomed to what we are today. And what ways can we expand ourselves to protect those things, so that those things are a living, breathing, sentient life form that help us become prosperous here in America? Ashe.
That's beautiful. Anybody online want to share?
Oh, let me see. We have quite a few people watching, but if anybody wants to share, please put it in the comment.
Yes.
And even if you don't do it before, or before we close out, please do, and I will put your comment on. Go ahead, babe.
All right. So we're gonna finish out with our Harambes.
Hey, Dage, do you have anything else you want to add to this before we close out? Dage?
Yeah, I think the question that you asked, babe, was great, and it's something we can think about. I have a brand new journal that I was gifted with yesterday, and I have a lot of things I plan on journaling about your question. The immediate thing that comes to mind for me moving into 2026 is trying to be really clear on distractions and how they impact my, how do y'all say it? I can't be great today. I feel like I have had this year, a lot of ticky tacky petty things that drain from me on a day to day basis that interfere, and some of it is useless. And it's not that I want to be a hermit. I want to be aware of the world and where we're going. But I got to be more discerning about the foolishness and how much I'm just getting pulled in these directions, because then I end up getting frustrated with myself when I'm not where I want to be. And it's time is a limited resource, and I'm getting up there in age. And so I'm really being more, what's the word? Protective, being more of a vanguard on my time. And part of it is what my eyeballs and ears are going to be going to. I'm just going to be a lot more guarded about that. I have to be. So that's one of the ways that, because if I don't, I can't contribute or function. I also think it's a nervous system thing. Just too much of this regulates my nervous system. So it's just, this is the time of year, which is why I really love Kwanzaa. It's a time to sit back and think about your year, what worked and what didn't. It's not about like, woe is me, but just like, going forward, I think I need to maybe go more in this direction. So I love this time of year because something about the energy, the cold in the winter, how it slows you down, it kind of forces you to just have that stillness. And then you can take that time to reevaluate how you want to move forward with the energy of the next year. So the distractions I want to minimize.
Fire.
Yeah. Ashe. All right, let's do our Harambe's.
All right. Days, you with us?
Harambe! 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 I get,
All right.
yeah.
So that concludes our live portion of this. Join us for Imani, when we will be playing games and fellowshipping and inviting a whole lot of people on. Hopefully they can join us and we can fellowship all together. Please don't be shy. Add on. Put your comment in Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, and let's be family about this. All right. Dej, any last words before we go out?
Next ceremony, Kumba.
Kumba, yeah. But Dad was just saying that Imani is the one that we'll do the games and stuff with. But we're going to celebrate tomorrow, too.
Any last words or last things you want to communicate before we close out, sweetie? All right. Trying to give you a opportunity. Going once, going twice. All right. So you guys enjoy the rest of your Nia. Spend it in your purpose. And, let's have a great, determined, and purposeful New Year. Peace and love to the family out there. Catch us